Yebo? Okay. I will be waiting for your cue and your countdown when the time is right. I can hear you. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Sure. Effectiveness of government institutions, customer service charter, and service delivery. The purpose of the. Yebo? Yeah. But what do you want me to introduce it as? Okay. Okay. Yeah. ICT, customer service charter. All right. Who produced it? Okay, MICT. Cool. To improve the efficient service. Organization with its customers. Okay, we have. Good afternoon, Namibia, and welcome to yet another interesting edition of the Government Information Center's session, where we discuss all things of national interest, of public interest rather. My name is Johnny Konja, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, today in studio, we will be discussing the effectiveness of government institutions, customer service, and of course, the charter in service delivery. In studio today, I am joined by the director at the Directorate of Audiovisual Media and Regional Offices at the Ministry of Information and Communication and Technology. That's Ms. Rosalia Penda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And also we have Ms. Susan. Ms. Susan Tema is the Director of Performance Improvement at the Office of the Prime Minister. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
All right, now customer service charter is a document that outlines an organization promises to the work its customers, along with providing insights into how an organization operates. And also today we are dissecting this matter to ascertain its role and also to find out its relations to the public service delivery and the importance of having one at an institution. Of course, I have introduced my guest today in studio, and we will be having the Ministry of Health and Social Services to give us the COVID-19 update that's later during the show. But let's rather start with Miss Susan, perhaps just to help us understand what the purpose of the charter is and what motivated the establishment of the customer service charters.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon to all the viewers. Thank you for the good question of what is the customer service charter. Maybe the first thing we need to describe or explain is what is a customer service charter before we get to the next question. We are saying the customer service charter. This is a document that is widely accessible by the citizens. It's a document that describes what are the services offered by that respective service user or that respective service provider, being the government or the offices, ministries and agencies. What are the services they offer and what are the service standards that the citizen should expect. It's a document that highlights that. It also highlights what are the responsibilities of the service users. As service users, we also have responsibilities to be fulfilled. Like, for example, if you have to go for a passport application, there will be expectations that you need to come along. So the service charter outlines that, and it also outlines that should a citizen or a customer not be happy with the services offered, there are formalities that they need to follow. Where should they go to? How should they lay their complaint and follow up on that complaint? So a charter is just a very simple document outlining what services are offered and how the citizen should relate to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that clear and brief explanation. Now we're going to take an insert that's produced by the MICT that's going to talk about the customer service charters. Let's take a look at this insert.
What is a customer service charter? This charter is a tool that sets standards of the services citizens can expect from the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology and provides the opportunity to help us improve our services. Here are our high-level statements. The mandate of the Ministry is to lay the foundation for the accelerated use and development of ICT in Namibia and coordinate information management within the Government of the Republic of Namibia, with a vision of being a catalyst for an informed and inclusive ICT Smart Namibia, and our mission is to create an enabling environment for ICT development and access to information for socio-economic growth. As a ministry, our service promise to you is when you contact us by telephone, we will answer within 3 rings, provide you with factually and timely information, return your call within 2 days if we cannot provide an answer immediately. In writing, we will acknowledge receipt within 2 working days, provide you with an explanation of how we are handling your case, inform you when to expect an answer. In person, we will attend to you within 5 minutes if you have an appointment and respond to your questions. If we cannot help, we will let you know why and when you can expect an answer, conduct referrals on your behalf, and provide you with the referral person's name, address, and contact details. Remember, your views count.
What a very informative insert right there that's produced by the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology. Now, if you just joined us, you're watching the Government Information Center. This is where we are engaging with you, the public, later in the show. You can also join us and also give us your input. But for now, today we are having Ms. Rosalia Penda from the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, as well as Ms. Susan Tema from the Office of the Prime Minister. We are discussing the topic of the charter, that is the effectiveness of government institutions, customer service charter in service delivery. Now, to continue with our discussion, I would like to direct this question to Ms. To the MICT rather. Perhaps just tell us, ma'am, you are the Director of Multimedia, and I speak under correction. Just tell us perhaps maybe what your title is all about.
Thank you very much. Basically, I have got many hats to say. That's why the title multimedia. But in reality, the Government Information Center falls under that same directorate, and we have 14 regional offices, and in extension, we have 25 rural ICT centers in remote rural areas across the country. So that's how widespread the mandate is. And under the same directorate, it's where the Namibia Film Commission also falls under. So basically, Anything to do with multimedia, it's my baby.
Wow, that's
Yes.
quite interesting. And I'm sure you're doing quite a great job, having to manage the government information center, which is really being a big tool to send out information to all parts of the country. Now, I want to direct this question to you again. Perhaps just help us understand how can customer service charter contribute to improved and efficient service delivery?
Okay, first maybe let me explain how we understand customer service charter. In private sector, people call it customer service orientation. And I think it's the same way you can look at it as the customer service charter. Basically, customer service charter is a living document. But to make it simple for somebody on the street, customer service charter is a promise of the Ministry of ICT to the people of Namibia. We are promising what services and products we will offer them, and in return, we will respect them, and we will also expect them to come back to us if they are not happy with the service. And even if they are happy, we will still welcome them to come. It's always good to be appreciated. But it's a two-way, it's a document which actually promote engagement. We cannot, as a directorate, we depend on our customers to actually build on our mandate, and without the customers, we are lost. So we look at this customer service charter as a promise to the people of Namibia.
Thank you so much. Over to you, ma'am. Just tell us what the role of the Office of the Prime Minister is in regards to the charters.
Thank you. The Office of the Prime Minister derives its mandate from the Public Service Act number 13 of 1995, especially Section 5, 2I and N, which provides for the Prime Minister to be the overseer of public administration. So as the overseer of public administration, we are mandated to provide policy directive as well as the right framework, especially on the current topic we are on. We provide the framework on how to do how to develop the charters, how to live the charters, and also how should we get feedback from our citizens or from our customers in relation to the services that are offered.
Thank you so much. Ms. Pender, maybe just also explain to us who is eligible to form part of the Customer Service Charters Committee?
When it comes to the Ministry of ICT, we are a little bit orthodox in the sense that we don't, the eligibility is not really dependent on the title of the person. It's basically dependent on what type of person are we talking about. Because for us, we have made it mandatory that each director who heads a directorate need to be a member of the charter. And then supervisors as well, selectively, but a must is the internal auditor must be part of the charter as well. And the people responsible for business process re-engineering, we need to have a representative there. The public relation officer, a representative there. And also the public innovation champions. From them, we also need a representative. And then each directorate is also represented by an operational person. So that is how we constituted and put together the three frames which the Office of the Prime Minister came up with, because they came separately. The Customer Service Charter on its own, Business Process Reengineering on its own, and Public Innovation Champions on its own. But then we decided in the Ministry to put it together because all those things are actually interlinked. So that is how we constituted the charter, but mostly the main pointer or the main indicator is a person who's vibrant, who's eager to learn, and who can think on their feet.
Wow, that's
when
quite
situations arise.
Wow. Who would you say of all the the different sections that you've mentioned, who has the biggest role to play in the in the creation of this customer service charter?
It's basically a teamwork effort. It has to be, because it deals with every section or every department within the ministry. So it's a teamwork effort. And if one of them is not pulling, then the customer service charter will definitely not get created and implemented as well as it should be.
Ms. Tema, over to you, perhaps. Just give us an understanding of how many institutions have concluded their customer service charters and launched them to the public.
Thank you. Maybe before I come to that question, just to elaborate further on what Ms. Penda said, to say who is eligible to form part of the customer service committee, charter committee in OMAS. We have the clear guidelines on how to come about the customer service charters, and we also have the terms of reference of the customer service charter committees. We are saying the overall coordination of customer service charter activities in a ministry is the responsibility of the executive director. And that is why even these committees, they report directly to the executive director. And with the composition, as MICT are doing, we just give the guideline to say it should be composed mainly of managers, including the PRO of the ministry, the learning and development officer, but it's purely up to the executive directors to choose among the team members who are those staff members that are passionate about change, because this is bringing about change. Thank you.
All right.
And on the ministries that are rolling out the customer service charters, we are saying almost 100% of the ministries and regional councils that we are coordinating, they are at different stages of charter implementation. We have 3 broad milestone of charters, which is the development stage, we have the implementation stage, we also have the internalization or the sustainability of the charters. So ministries are at different levels of implementation, but what I can clearly indicate now is that we have almost 100% of ministries ticking off the development. So we don't have issues of the development. Even if you go to a ministry, you ask where is your charter, the charter is there, it might just be somewhere, but it's there, it's developed. When it comes to implementation, implementation means we have, the ministry have gone ahead to launch the charter, to publicize the services that are articulated in the charter. So both to the external users as to the internal users. Remember, the charter outlined the service standards, and it's us staff members who provide those standards. So even staff members need to abide to the charters. So when it comes to implementation, we are standing currently on average at 66% of OMAs and regional councils. Where we are really lacking very behind is when it comes to sustainability. Sustainability of the charters means we have popularized the charters, we have come up with clear performance measures to measure that are we getting to the standard that we set. For example, MICT indicated they will respond within 2 days. Do they have the mechanism in place to, when they receive the whatever queries, do they have the mechanisms in place to record? When did they receive it, and when was the feedback provided? So that is the area where we really need to pull our socks as the public service, so that we start to measure the standard and we start to get feedback from our citizens on the services that we offer.
All right. Perhaps just help us understand what we've learned from the challenge of trying to make the charter more sustainable.
The key challenge that we have learned, I would like to indicate that the Office of the Prime Minister, we normally conduct some audits on customer service charter implementation. What that means is that we will request the respective committee of the ministry to report through the Office of the Executive Director, to report to the Office of the Prime Minister how they have performed. We have a checklist, a very detailed checklist that we go through. We check where is the charter, we see it, we tick. Was it launched? How was it launched? We tick. Was it internalized? How was it? How were the awareness created? We tick. So we have a checklist, and we have a mechanism in place to check on how ministries are doing in terms of charter implementation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And Ms. Penda, let's just engage with you more and also bring you into discussion. Maybe just to explain to us what are some of the guiding principles that are, and some of the values of the public servant that what should they abide to when it comes to the service charter?
Basically, it's the normal ones based on our ministerial values. Respectfulness, helpfulness, being transparent, being accountable. And basically from our strategic plans, those were aligned. But when it comes to staff members, the frontline officials, they get induction every year on how to deal with customers. Whereby we select a topic like, let's say, difficult customers, and how to make sure that feedback gets back to the people on time, at the time when they need it. We have pushed it to such a level that each and every staff member in their performance agreements, they need to have at least one target which is linked or which is basically from the customer service charter. If, for instance, it's a frontline officer, and in their performance agreement, they would probably have a target like relating to how quickly they respond to a phone. We promised in the customer service charter that it's we pick up before 3 rings, and we have a way of answering the phone professionally. So that particular frontline officer will have that target in their performance agreements, and they will be measured against that. The other one is also that the Office of the Prime Minister have created a feedback form whereby they instructed all the offices, agencies, and ministries to create suggestion boxes. The Ministry of ICT's suggestion box is red, by the way, to attract attention. So we created suggestion boxes, and we encourage our customers every time the frontline officer finish with a customer, they are encouraged to fill in the feedback form so that we can get the feedback from them, whether positive or negative.
You touched on suggestion boxes, where I think is really quite a vital point. But I want to understand, how effective are they in this kind of regard, considering that we are discussing customer service charter?
Well, in that regard, the suggestion boxes, we have rolled them out, but what we are getting is feedback. They haven't been that successful per se as expected. Because COVID came, but before COVID, they weren't that popular because people felt the framework of the feedback form is too long. And I believe that we have given that feedback to Office of the Prime Minister, and I think they are working on it, because preferably a customer will only be ready to fill in, let's say, three questions, maybe, tick, 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 and then leave. Not a long form which need to, they feel that it's a bit too long. They need a shorter one. So in the Office of the Prime Minister is aware of that. They are working on it so that we can find something, like, for instance, tablet, which you can just hand over to the, or it's mounted somewhere. They just tick, they leave, the next one tick, they leave, that's it. Yeah.
Ms. Susan, Ms. Penda just touched on some of these challenges, and that your office is busy dealing with those. Perhaps just tell us, what are the efforts that are being undertaken by the Office of the Prime Minister to mitigate these challenges?
Thank you. One of the greatest challenges that we have picked up during the audits that we normally conduct is that ministries are unable to implement the charters. Purely because the general common one is that there is no budget. But the budget must be secured by the respective ministry. The Office of the Prime Minister do not budget for the respective ministries to popularize their charters. So it's the responsibility of the line executive director to secure the budget and make sure that the the charters or the services of the ministries popularized. Issues like what we have just seen on the video clip by MICT, that costed money, and MICT budgeted for it. So that is one of the critical challenges that ministries are facing, but it is a challenge that can be overcome the way there is a will and there is a zeal to make sure that we popularize the services that are offered. On the feedback mechanisms, there are various feedback mechanisms. One of them is the suggestion box that Ms. Nanda has indicated, Penda has indicated. Of course, we got feedback on the suggestion questionnaire that is too long and that is under revision. But on top of that, we have an online feedback mechanism. If you go to the website of every government institution, you will see a tab on feedback. You just tap there and you provide whether it's a complaint or it's a compliment to the ministry. The ministry, especially the PRO of the ministry, will be able to pick up that and be able to respond. One of the feedback mechanisms also is through the office of the PROs, and also in the office of the Prime Minister, we have Prime Minister's question time. So the citizens are free to register any complaint or comment on any government services through the Prime Minister's question time. So those are some of the feedback mechanisms that are available.
Wow. Yes, please, if you'd like to add.
Because last year, no, not last year, the year before last year, we talk in financial year terms because our year starts in April and then in March.
Yes.
Yes, the year before last year, we undertook a desktop survey within the ministry because my point was, what is the use of marketing and creating awareness of a customer service charter if the staff themselves are not internalizing and own the customer service charter? So after we launched the charter and we did all the awareness, we did all the the tagging on the performance agreements and everything else, we decided to find out if the staff themselves are comfortable using the customer service charter, and we did a desktop survey, and we got something like 65% of the staff were kind of comfortable. 25 or 26 there around, they were still a little bit and the rest were still struggling.
Yeah.
So then we found out that it doesn't really help indicating to the public that, yes, come to us, we can help, but then the staff themselves are actually not up to the task. Yeah, which is something which I feel every ministry needs to do to find out if their people are really comfortable implementing practically this customer service charter before they can put their expectations too high. Yes.
Miss Susan touched on, access online, and I think it's quite important that we also mention that we've moved past the stage and we are digitalized in terms of usage or using the customer service charter. But how important is it from your own perspective, or from the ministry's perspective rather, to have access to the charter online?
I believe as a Ministry of ICT, for us, that's our lifeblood. And to be honest with you, as far as I'm concerned, I would love every Namibian to be able to access the website of the Ministry of ICT, or rather just to access that part of the feedback fraction for them to be able to tell us exactly what they need. Because whenever you are planning benchmarking on what happened previously, but then sometimes you leave out the gaps of what happens now. So for us, we base all our planning on that, or we strategize based on what our customers are giving us.
But in terms of people in remote areas, how can they? Is there anything being done? Are there efforts being undertaken by the ministry to make sure that they also have access to this product?
Okay. From which region are you?
Ochodonjupa region.
Okay, Ochodonjupa region. Okay, I'm also from Ochodonjupa region, but or I live in Ochodonjupa region. So in Ochodonjupa region, for instance, we have a regional office which is in Ochivarongo, but we have 2 rural ICT centers, and one is in Okanjira, the other one is in Tsungwe, and these 2 remote rural area centers is an extension of our offices where all the facility, the basic ICT facilities is available. So if somebody live in Okanjira, for instance, they could go to our rural ICT center and get access to, if they don't have the gadget, they can get access to, if it means, let's say they want to check their emails, they can do it there. If they want to laminate, they can do it there. If they want to just surf the internet, maybe to look for opportunities, they can do it there.
Yeah. Ms. Susan, let's engage you more. You did mention that budget is also one of the challenges we are, having in, from your perspective as the Office of the Prime Minister. But tell us, what are the efforts being made, and are there any plans to creating a budgetary vote for the ministries to carry out these activities much smoother?
Actually, thank you for the question. Budget is one of the challenges, but as I indicated, it can be overcome if the ministry secure the required resources for that activity. As we speak, the Office of the Prime Minister, as I indicated, do not budget for all ministries' implementation of the reform initiatives. Charters is just one of them. So ministries are at liberty, they are empowered, especially the executive directors, to make those budgetary provisions. And also the other item is on the charters. Charters must not only be available in English. Charters must also be translated in vernacular languages, especially for the services that are offered out there in the remote. For example, rural development or providing rural water supply. It's the responsibility to translate that charter for that functional area in the vernacular language, and also access other platforms that are accessible to the community, like you use the radios, you go to community meetings, just to sensitize the citizens of what they should expect and how should they relate to the ministry. One mechanism that we have put in place is to tag implementation of customer service charters to the performance agreement of all the executive directors. Implementation of charters right now is one of the mandatory performance indicators in the performance agreement of all the executive directors. As you all know, every quarter, the Secretary to the Cabinet meets with each executive directors. They have one-on-one, and one of the items he hits very hard is on charters, because we need to inform the citizens of what services government is offering, even the feedback of how are we faring in terms of implementation of these services, and what is it that the citizen ought to do. So those are some of the mechanisms in place.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that clear and brief explanation. Now, if you just join us once again, you're watching the Government Information Center, where we are, of course, discussing the government's efforts to, improve, and also just more that's being discussed here on the customer service charters. Of course, you can also join us now. I would like to open the lines where you can call us in studio at 061-400-397. That's the number to call in studio. You can just keep your questions short and brief, and our guests in studio can help us answer your questions. You are also watching us live from Facebook at Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology. That is on Facebook, and as well on YouTube. We are at MICT Namibia. Perhaps just to engage more in studio, I just want to share a bit of background on some information that has been mentioned according to the Customer Service Charter report that was dated in November 2020 that assessed the OMAs. Now, MICT have scored the highest in terms of development, implementation, and sustainability of the Customer Service Charter. Maybe just share some of the successes that have been employed to achieving this scoring.
Okay, I wouldn't call it a success, but I would tell you what we did. First of all, when we got the framework, it was in a different format, and then we were told the format will change. What we did was we constituted, or rather we created a committee, and we made it mandatory that the committee must be chaired by a director and deputized by another director. So the committee itself need to be active from beginning of the financial year to the end of the financial year, because what we have found out is that people are eager to create a committee, but to keep the committee active, to keep the activities of the committee, maybe reviewing it on a quarterly basis, is difficult for most people. So we made it a mandatory that the committee will need to meet throughout the year, and they also will have to have activity attached to those meetings. So we only meet when an activity is completed so that we can do a little bit of a monitoring and evaluation. What we did also was we created an environment or a team which is encouraged through by leadership through empowerment, whereby I can be the chairperson, but I will definitely not travel at all to the regions to tell people about the charter, or staff members about the charters. The operational staff members will have to go and tell others how the charter is supposed to be implemented and how cool it is. So, because if I say it, I won't convince them, but if another staff member do that, so that is what we did. And then the customer service ownership started growing by that. And we integrated, as I said before, in the performance agreements. And we also made the team a participatory one and an engaging one. It's not like you do this, I do this. No, we do it together collectively as a team. And then the committee also, as I said before, we made sure the internal auditor is included so that the internal auditor could do spot checks. Spot checks are checks which is not announced. The internal auditor will just come, observe, tick off whatever they need to tick off, and then they report to the committee. Yeah, and that's how we actually identified some of the spot checks, or rather some of the coffee stains, as they say. And then we also, on the business process re-engineering, what we did is, as a committee, we took a tour through, a simulation tour through the ministry, wherever they are, and identified the services where we find that a lot of complaints are coming through. Like, for instance, the first one we looked at is the film sector, the film application. When you are a foreigner and you want to come and film in Namibia, so then we wrote the submission through to the Office of the Prime Minister, and we asked that we need to re-engineer that particular process, and now we are done. It's completed, it's being implemented. It's called a film one-stop center. So which means that if a foreign, even a local one, a filmmaker wants to film in a conservancy, for instance, they need to get permission from the conservancy management. They need to get permission from the traditional authority. If they're going to use actors from the community, they need to get permission for that. If they're going to use drones, they need to get permission from the aviation department. And if they are going to bring in a crew, they need to get permission and visas, work permits from the Ministry of what is the ministry? Ministry of Home Affairs, sorry.
Right.
Excuse, yeah. Ministry of Home Affairs. And if it is a big production, like the Mummy, for instance, you will need to get an environmental assessment done, a feasibility done and approved. So all those things are done separately from different offices. So what we did is we pull all those stakeholders together and do a collaborative type of tool, whereby the film, whatever is happening behind the scene, the filmmaker who's applying doesn't see it. They just fill in one form, and that's it.
And how important is that to have all stakeholders also really engaged in this and also well informed and also in a collaborative manner? How important is it to really have them on board?
It's very crucial because what we have also, what is directly related to that is basically that when you want to do business, rather when you want to do film business in Namibia, 3 years ago, it used to take you 66 days.
Wow.
But now we have minimized it up to 45 days. We are aiming to actually 4 days. So we are still a bit of a long way, but as I said, getting all these people together, it actually made us realize how difficult it is for somebody to just come and film here, because we are one of those countries who have got natural studios, man-made, I mean, not man-made studios, studios which is just given there. So that's an advantage we have over all the other people. But now the thing which is actually taking investment away, especially film investment, is that the person have to go through hoops and loops just to be able to film in the country. So we wanted to stop that gap. And we have managed to, but now we have to implement it on a steady enhancement basis so that we can actually move from 66 days down to 4 days.
45. Wow,
Yes.
interesting. I would just like to remind you, the viewer, that you are watching the Government Information Center, and of course you can engage with us on social media, as well as you can also call in and also ask our guest in studio today just a few questions that are what are your concerns on the customer service charter. Of course, you can call us at 061 400 397. That's 061 400 397. That's our number to call in studio. You can also engage with us live on Facebook, and also comment and share your concerns, or also ask your question there. That is at the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology on Facebook, and of course, you can comment. You can comment on MICT Namibia on YouTube. Now, of course, ma'am, Miss Susan, I wanted to engage on you. Maybe what are the successes that has been that the Office of the Prime Minister can share regarding the office? Regarding the customer service charter.
Thank you. As I have already highlighted that the development of the charters, almost all the institutions of government have the charters, and it's up to the line ministries to popularize that. And when it comes to popularization of the charters and living the charters, we have good examples like MICT. You can also Office of the Auditor General, they really popularize what they offer. We have seen some documentary on mass housing with the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development. We have also seen Ministry of Mines and Energy on mining licenses. So that is the way of informing the public of what services does the ministry offer. So, and as as we can relate, is that Namibia comes a long way in terms of the zeal for government to make sure that the citizens knows the services that are offered by government. Way back in 1997, in October, the former president, Dr. Sam Nujoma, he launched the 9 general principles on public service management, or 9 principles that these are the general principles or the core values that public servants ought to live by. So it clearly outlines what the values that we must live by. So we have the value of being accountable, being courtesy. So it's up to us, public servants. That's why we are servants, to assess ourselves that we are the servants, the public are the bosses. Are we serving them the right way? So, but the government, the zeal from government is there to make sure that the general public knows about the services that are offered.
Interesting. I want us to perhaps just highlight more and perhaps just draw more emphasis on the benefits, just so the viewer that's watching in a home can have an understanding of the benefits of the customer service charter. Perhaps let's start with you, Ms. Penda. Ms. Penda perhaps can also start.
Can you just repeat the question, please?
The benefits of the customer service charter, what are they in layman's terms for the viewer watching at home?
Okay, as I said before, the customer service charter is a promise. And when you make somebody a promise, you have to keep it. And that person you are making a promise to have the tools to be able to measure whether you are actually meeting that promise. And as my colleague, Ms. Dema, has said, I think that's where we are really having a problem. As long as we don't find a very user-friendly, flexible way of getting feedback. Okay, currently we are trying with whatever we have, but personally, I would say we need an intervention. Intervention in the sense of Ministry of Finance making provision, not a big one, just a small one, for each ministry to take the first step, so that at least we have something at every building of government. There is a board like that, like a podium, where the person, or like just like the iPad you are holding. Just an iPad where our customers could come and say, oh yeah, today I got served very nicely. Oh no, today the service awful. You know, because that's how we are dependent on that. You see what I mean? Without that, we are working in a vacuum. And that is where the problem is. Because somehow when people join government, they seem to get into a habit of feeling that they are settled, they are there, but not necessarily why they are there. And to dissect that word, public servant, you are a servant to the people, and if the people are not happy with you, they must have a means of telling you that, so that you can do damage control, or you can actually prevent the same mistake from repeating itself.
All right, Miss Susan would like to add, I'm sure.
I can add on some of the benefits of having customer service charters that are fully implemented is that you improve access to the services that are offered, because you make known the services that you are offering to the general citizens, and you are also empowering the general citizens to play a role in that process. So by getting feedback from the citizens, as a line ministry, you are also getting feedback on what services, on the quality of service, what you are able to make a decision that this service we are offering is not satisfactory to the citizens. So you are able to change and modernize that service and be able to provide quality service, because that is the aim of government. And ultimately, at the end, we will have a happy citizenry. Customer satisfaction will go high. In 1997, just some background, not 97, 2007, the office of, 2017, the Office of the Prime Minister conducted a citizen satisfaction survey. And the ultimate result there, it was the overall average is 54%, meaning it was very low. Right. And some of the attributes to that can be mitigated by the customer service charters, that maybe the citizen do not even know the service, and during the question time you ask them, have you interacted with this? They don't know about that, so the outcome will be negative. But if we make it very friendly, we make known the services that we are offering, then the citizen, we are empowering them also to interact with government.
Wonderful. Perhaps you can make the addition, but just
on the benefits.
Right.
Yeah. One thing which we have picked up, this is now from practical experience, it's honest communication. Now, honest communication in the sense of the staff. If you are honest with the staff and you help them understand what they are supposed to do, then it cascades down to customer satisfaction. The same applies to open doors. Our customer service, when we launched it, we took basically so-called oath. I will say an oath, because we laid down the principle that no government office in the Ministry of ICT need to be closed when you are inside. The doors remains open, which means anyone can walk in. The other advantage is the collaboration of technology or collaborative technology, in the sense that if you are likely, if you communicate the charter in such a way that every staff member emulate it, it kind of, as I state, it cascades to the customers, and of course, when the customers are satisfied, they come back as well, and one of those customers might just be a software designer or an application creator, and in that way, the ministry benefits as well.
Wow. Ms. Penda, there are those who like to take on social media and also express their dissatisfaction of services to perhaps a certain ministry or whatever service that's out there being provided to the public. What does the Ministry of Information do in that regard?
We have all the platforms. We are subscribing to all the platforms, and our public relations officers, including the manual newspapers, any comment, any complaint which is raised, we usually deal with it through our public relation officers. If they don't know what to say, they usually come back to us, and then we respond back to the customers. Sometimes it's not even a complaint, it's just that the person doesn't know and they need to know this type of information. Even if it is not part of our mandate, we usually do that. Even it can be a Ministry of Health, it can be Office of the Prime Minister, it can be Minister of Urban. It doesn't really matter for us because we have all tentacles in all ministries, so we provide the information as we get it, and we have made sure our ministry is basically the backbone where public relation officers are emanating from, and we provide them with training, and we do monitoring and evaluation. We also have a quarterly survey which we actually look at the websites of the ministries and see which one has got too much outdated information. So thus, the PRO usually are our frontline people who are actually our faces, representing each and every ministry.
Wow, interesting. Ms. Susan, just tell us, maybe she did speak of the public relations being involved in, not the implementation, but perhaps the operationalization of the charter. Perhaps just tell us from the Office of the Prime Minister's perspective, how involved is the PRO in the operationalization of the charter?
Thank you. In all the ministries, the public relations officers play a bigger role in terms of getting feedback from the citizens, because that is the frontline staff where the citizen goes to, especially when it comes to the online feedback mechanism. The person responsible to manage that platform is the PRO. So the PRO plays a bigger role even in terms of creating awareness of what services the government is offering, and also the learning and development officers in OMAS, they also plays a role to train civil servants or to train staff members to know what are the standards, what are the promises we have made to our citizens. We have set the standard to say we will respond to your queries in 2 days. So the staff members ought to understand that as I receive this letter, I must provide feedback within 2 days. So it's a two-way relation. It has to do with us as public servants and also as citizens getting to know what is expected. And hence the PRO, they report directly to the executive directors. So they play a bigger role. They are a support to the executive directors.
Interesting. We are, of course, edging towards the end of our program, unfortunately. But let's just maybe take this last few minutes to just perhaps explain the policies developed over the years that have been developed to drive transparency. How has it been effective, perhaps from both the MICT and the Office of the Prime Minister?
Maybe for MICT.
Okay. Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Okay, as I said before, transparency comes in many formats, but what we have discovered is that honesty in communication is actually our key for both staff and the member of the public. And also, we have also found out that when it comes to transparency and accountability, they go together somehow in practice. So it basically, the policies themselves are not really as, I would have loved to receive a policy document that is really simple for especially staff, because what is happening now is you look at a policy document, you will need an implementation plan for it, but then you will also need to simplify it. Like she said, most of the things we are doing at the moment is in English, and I would like to change that. But unfortunately, translations in this country is very expensive. And as a ministry, we are working towards that, because for us, the ultimate two areas where we feel is the first step for the Minister of ICT to be transparent. It's honesty in communication, and for the people to read what they need to read in their own language. I feel that's the ultimate transparency, because for them, for everyone to understand, it doesn't really help us to say, yes, we did it, but it's only in English. What about my grandma who's in the village? Who can, she can read, but she can read English. Maybe she can read Afrikaans, or she can read Oshiherero, for instance. So we need our people, the people out there, the people who put us here, to really be able to help themselves by reading what they need to know at the right time.
What about those living with disabilities such as Braille?
Braille, we did try. It's the same with translations. With Braille, we got a quotation from only one company, and unfortunately, because as an allocation for the ministry, we don't really get that much money. So with the prioritizing, basically, we end up not having enough, because like last year, or the year before last year and last year, we were trying to translate the constitution into 3 local languages. We managed to, but it's also not finalized because of the resources, the money which is just not enough. We did try to, we are still going to continue to try to see how we can, basically, the charter itself, at the moment, the format it is in, it's a good one, because it's a booklet with divisional charters, which you can laminate and put up. So if we can take that booklet and translate it into Braille, then I believe that's one positive step forward.
Wonderful. Of course, we are unfortunately almost out of time. Just have a minute left, but we'd just like Ms. Susan perhaps to just share her final remarks for today.
Thank you. Just to elaborate further on what Ms. Penda has indicated, to say one of the general principles of the Namibian Public Service Charter is information and accountability. So information means we need to provide. We need to provide information to the general citizen. Whether it's a policy that have been endorsed, it needs to be known by the citizens, and we need to account on that. My last remark is that Namibia played a very big role in the formulation of the African Charter on the African Charter on the values and principles of public service and administration that was endorsed by the African Union in 2011. Remember, in 2011, Namibia had already had the 9 principles endorsed by His Excellency, the former President, the former President, Dr. Sam Nujoma. So you can see that Namibia is a champion when it comes to charter implementation, and we really call upon the citizens, and especially the public servants at large, to really try to internalize the ministerial charter. Try to internalize the standards that we have promised our citizens, that this is how we are going to save you, and live by that. Let us be very citizen-centric. Let us be selfless public servants.
Thank you so much. Namibia, there you have it. You have heard from Ms. Rosalia Penda, that's the Director of Audiovisual, Media and Regional Offices at the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. Ms. Susan Tema also was joining us today from the Office of the Prime Minister, who is the Director of Performance Improvement. My name is Johnny Konja, and you were watching the Government Information Center. We were discussing effectiveness of government institutions, customer service charter, and service delivery. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again tomorrow. And unfortunately, we also want to apologize for not bringing you the COVID health update this afternoon. But of course, you can also get that tomorrow right here on this show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye.